Hey guys, I actually wanted to talk about relationships in this video. And for myself, and I'm certain it's, similar to lots of people, but when you are navigating the world and you're finding people and, the different things that bring you together. And so sometimes it's attraction, sometimes it's it's for every, just different reasons, and it's different for everybody. But through this, the one thing that I have learned is I'm going to go two ways with this. So the first part is, in between relationships, my first marriage was 15 years. My second one was only 3. And I don't have any regrets because they taught me a lot and I learned a lot. It's made me who I am today, and it actually taught me how to go inward and learn myself of what my own needs are and what the things that I need in a relationship. And so the number one thing is you have to validate and you have to love yourself first, because you can't expect somebody else to love you when you don't love yourself first. So it kind of starts with there. But in between my relationships, I've spent a lot of time not in relationships either. And that was just because I just felt like I kept going wrong. Why didn't it work out? The situations that I had, there's a lot of emotional abuse and a lot of manipulation and just a lot of game playing, excuse my language, but mindfuckery. That's the only way I can put it. And I say that very passionately because that's what it was. It was a purposeful screw with my mind. And so with that, it really kind of gave me a negative opinion about, I wouldn't say just dating, but, it almost made me to a point of not caring if I was in a relationship. I knew I could give myself what I needed. That's where, part of my independence came from a young child. I grew up really fast, and I just learned to take care of my emotional needs and my physical needs, because those are things that I didn't get a whole lot of. My parents financially gave me things, but when it comes to the emotional part, those are the things that I didn't receive. And so for myself, starting with my, growing up, but then in my 2 marriages, I realized that I kind of went to a point of I didn't care anymore, and I didn't care if I was in a relationship, because I would rather be happy and take care of myself and give myself emotionally what I needed than to try to get it from somebody else. And I felt like I was just, and it was very different. So I tried to, in each relationship, I tried to go, okay, it didn't work out in this first one. And again, my first marriage was 15 years, only 7 of it, but we were together 15 years and I had 2 children. But when that didn't work out, and I definitely probably stayed way longer than I should have, but that's just because I gave my all. And I gave my all for my children, and I have no regrets for that. However, I suffered in the end. But I'm still thankful for that because it taught me so much. But then, because that didn't work out, I went kind of polar opposite in somebody. And so my second marriage was very different, I thought, than my first marriage. But then, that's why it was short-lived. It was only 3 years, and that was because I realized I felt like I was repeating patterns, but different people. And so that one, again, I wasn't married for very long when we got divorced. And again, a lot of mind games, including the day we got divorced, including the day we got married. So, I should have picked up on that. But I just wanted love, I guess. And I was loyal enough to try to work things out when I should have known that it was not healthy and it was not workable, if that makes sense. If both people choose to work together to help themselves, that's when it's good to stay loyal. But if only one is trying to help themselves, the other is not, it is only going to continue to be a toxic relationship. So I started realizing this in my second marriage, and that's why it was kind of short-lived. It's because I realized I was starting to have that same pattern as I had in my first marriage. And so we got divorced, and I spent almost 7 years by myself, and I literally was at a point where it emotionally, between growing up as a kid and not having my emotional needs met, but also in both relationships, again, I just kind of felt like, you know what, I'm going to take care of myself. I don't need to. But I promised myself, and I promised Spirit, because Spirit and I have lots of conversation, and I promised I wouldn't harden my heart. I would not allow, I would let somebody in. But it took a long time before I let that happen. And so I didn't give up, because again, I promised myself I wouldn't harden myself. But I didn't go after anything, if that makes sense. And so I kind of realized at that point, I started figuring out a little more, because the thing is in between relationships, and I did date a couple of guys in between, for not very long. I really wanted to get to know them before I made any kind of serious moves, and that was just because I had already been in that situation where it was like, you know, I'm not going to repeat the patterns again. And so some of them really never even took off into a relationship. They just, I was probably a little defensive, but that was just because I was emotionally protecting myself, and I was not going to repeat a pattern again. But at the same time, like I said, I promised myself I wouldn't harden myself. I would let love in. And so after 7 years, almost 7 years this month, it'll be, that I hadn't been in a relationship up until this last month. And it's been right at a month that we've been seeing each other. And the one thing that I realized yesterday is I feel like this is the right one. And it's because everything within a month, okay, that's not very long, a month, I already feel different than I did first marriage 15 years, second marriage 3 years. Okay, 1 month, I already feel the difference. And the things that I'm experiencing with him are things that I never experienced in either marriage. And so I kind of realized that by not hardening my heart and allowing love in, but also kind of knowing what my needs are and what I need out of a relationship, one of the things was complementing each other. Another thing is both of them pushing from the same side of the rock. And what I mean is that's in everything. So that's not just, you know, the relationship, but, you know, where we have areas that we may say we may need to heal or we're experiencing. We're both working with each other, and we're both willing to help ourselves to better the situation or, you know, go through this healing process and this journey. And so right off the bat, we are parallel. We are wanting the same thing. That's something that I've never had in any other relationship. The other thing is empathy, okay? I am experiencing empathy for the first time in a relationship with a man, which is, it made me emotional. It was beautiful. But that's another thing is how you know when you're in the right relationship with the right person, is they are very different than that repeating pattern that I've had in the past. So I'm going to have to make a second too because I'm out of time.